Hey everybody, in this video, we're going to share our adventures in Puerto Madryn, Argentina.
Where we enjoyed some Welsh tea and pastries and got to see some sea lions.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean.
And I'm Deb.
And welcome back to the channel. We are here in Montevideo, Uruguay. This is the last stop on our 14-day cruise before we head back tomorrow to Buenos Aires, Argentina. And we are sitting at the pier, and as you can probably hear, there's lots of dock work going on, so apologize for the background noise. We'll do the best we can to clean it up. But what we want to talk about today is a little trip that we took prior to this destination in Puerto Madryn, Argentina. I think I said it right.
I think so.
Yep.
So just like our last video, if you haven't seen it, to the Falkland Islands, this trip also, this stop was a little bit of an adventure for us.
Crazy day. Yeah.
A little crazy day. A lot of...
crazy morning.
Crazy morning for sure.
Yeah.
So we had actually not booked an excursion through the ship. We had booked it through Viator, and we needed to be at the meeting point for this Viator trip at 7:30 in the morning. Yeah. So we were up super early.
We knew we had to get up early.
Yeah, we knew we had to get up early, but thankfully it was, docking at a pier so we could, walk and not have to rely on the tenders. So we got up super early, had a light breakfast.
But the ship didn't even arrive and get cleared until like 6:30 or 7. Yeah. I mean, it was going to be a rush.
We had a plan. We knew that it was about a 40-minute walk, which we probably couldn't do because it was a little bit too long and we'd be late. So we rushed off the ship as soon as we could, as soon as everything opened, walked the very long distance.
This pier is like a quarter of a mile long.
Very long.
Really long.
Which we're fine with our steps.
Yeah.
So we walked to the end of the pier, found a line of cabs, jumped in a cab.
We sent a WhatsApp message to the people saying, hey, we're coming. We're going to be there in just a little bit. And they were like...
And pretty much we didn't even get a whole block.
No, the cab turned around in the street and was getting ready to drive off.
And we were like, wait, stop. We had just gotten a message. Now, the tour was a swimming with sea lions. And we knew that it was going to be windy, quite windy later in the day, according to the weather we had seen. However, when we arrived, it was pretty...
When we were walking across the pier, I was like, hold on to your hat.
Yes, it was pretty windy. Yeah. So we got a notice from Viator saying, sorry, because of sea conditions, it was canceled. And so then here we are very early in the morning.
I did tell this poor cab lady, I'm sure we're like her first fare of the day. We're like, stop. We know we've only gotten like 50 feet, but they canceled our tour and we need to get back out because then we could get back to the ship.
So we hustled back down the long pier.
Quarter mile back.
By the time we got down to the ship, I think we already had like 5,000 steps.
It was crazy.
Very early in the morning.
We're like, oh, okay, halfway there.
We ran by the excursion desk, but nobody was there because they were all there in the theater handing out tickets for today's excursions.
So then we went to the customer service desk and they were like, go to the theater. And
so we went to the theater and anyway, hustled around, found a couple girls and we just asked, do you have anything left today at all?
Bought a tour.
Yeah. And so there also had been a swimming with sea lion option through the ship. Through Viator, it was going to cost us $125 each for the excursion. Through the ship, now it did include lunch, it was going to cost, I think, $400 or $488. I can't remember, but it was super expensive. So we were like, but anyway. So that one had also gotten canceled too.
So now we're fighting with that
So
tour.
Then, of course, everybody's trying to get on a different tour. So anyway, it was a crazy morning.
The staff did a great job.
Happened before 8 a.m.
Yeah, and the staff did a great job. They knew things were canceled. They were trying to help everybody. And so Deb was like looking at the spreadsheet thing with the lady of like, which one can we do? Can we do this one? Can we do this one?
And several of them were already booked. Solid. So
I think this was probably
this might have been one of two that still had room.
Yeah.
So we jumped on we signed up for a tour that was Welsh tea. I know that sounds weird, but it was actually enjoyable.
Oh, it was great.
And Punto Lomo. So it was all one excursion together and we were leaving at 8 and we were like, perfect. We'll do it right now.
We went on a bus tour. We're usually like hiking and walking and going around. We went on a bus tour and it was fine. It was good. So it was worth it just for the Welsh tea, just so you know. But
Okay, so we met with the excursion group, got on a bus.
Yep.
Now, pretty much all the excursions from Puerto Madryn were a drive because there's places to see penguins and sea lions and everything, but they're out of town. So you had to take buses and go a ways to go do them. And we knew that, like when we originally looked at the excursions.
Puerto Madryn, like in comparison, like the Stanley was a teeny tiny little town. You can look right, see the end of the town, look left, see the end of the town. Even Ushuaia was kind of a small city, I would say.
Puerto Madryn was, I think, about 100,000 people.
It was a good
very
sized
good
city,
city,
right? So in order to get to the wildlife, the beaches and the rocks and the Alps, you got to go outside of the city.
So we took a quite long bus ride to our first stop, which was Gaiman.
Gaiman.
And that area of Argentina had been settled first by the Welsh. So that's why we went to a Welsh tea.
Yeah.
So the town of Gaiman itself was super small. Like it was very small. But to get there, it was quite a long drive. And the scenery was like desert-like.
It is a desert. There's no doubt. And it is it's like a big contradiction. Like I was telling Deb on the bus, like we just came from the ocean, like this massive body of water. And we went through the city of Puerto Madryn and literally into the desert. And I mean, it is, and like blowing winds and sand and into the desert. It's kind of crazy that it's that close to the water.
So there actually wasn't a lot to see between
there and Gaiman.
We did happen to see some llamas.
She got to see a llama.
Yes.
She was excited.
But they went by too quick and I couldn't grab a picture. So they were just standing by the side of the road, a little group of them. So
he was telling us that because the land there is not farmable or any way, shape, or form, basically it's really good for raising sheep, raising
a lot
goats,
of sheep
and raising llamas. Yeah. So because the sheep, the water there is all brackish water mixed with seawater, and so the sheep can drink it just fine. So they eat the scrub grass, so it works out really well for sheep. Yeah.
So major sheep farms, but we never at our window saw
sheep.
So,
saw llamas.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So anyway, we made it to Gaiman. And it was very small, but the bus dropped us off a little bit into town, and then we wound up walking to the tea place.
So we did like a walking tour.
We did a walking
Gaiman.
tour.
Yeah, and the Welsh history, because we saw like the very first Welsh established schoolhouse. I think it was.
So it was actually the first secondary school in Patagonia, I believe.
Completely. So, but it was established by the Welsh community, and then
in Gaiman. And because it's such a Welsh community, when you go to school there, they teach both Spanish and Welsh. The choir sings in Welsh. So anyway, that was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was. And so we got this I don't know, kind of history of the Welsh coming and settling that part of Patagonia, which was pretty neat.
And we walked through a little park. Everything was small there.
It was very small, but cute. I mean, and you could tell this town very much embraced their Welsh heritage. They're like the Welsh flag has a dragon on it, and so there's like the dragon. There's like dragon sculptures in the park, and it was kind of cool to see how the two cultures, Argentinian and Welsh cultures, were kind of blended.
So I'm not sure we really were prepared for what was going to happen at the tea house.
Not at all. No, not at all. I mean, I thought we were going to go to some sort of basically replication of a British tea, which was, I think of high tea as kind of being very proper and formal, and this was super relaxed and awesome.
Yes, it was in and there are several tea houses in this town.
Yep.
But this was at a very popular, I guess, tea house.
It was big.
And we walked in, and I mean, the decorations were great. Everything was great.
It was super cool. Even just the architecture of the little building was really cool. And the women who were running it were like super welcoming. Come in and come
dressed,
sit down.
Dressed in the Welsh attire, probably from the old days.
And the tables were set already.
The name of the place was Tai Gwyn. Yes, so the tables, that was, when we got to started walking towards the tables, we were like, wow.
Holy cow. Because, you think about going to a restaurant, the table's empty, it might have your silverware, flatware, things like that, and you come and then take your order and they bring you the stuff. That was not how it was. We went
Mm-hmm.
and all the stuff was laid out.
There were plates full of baked goods
This is like
all
Deb's
over
dream.
It was
like
we ate so much. There were plates full of baked goods all over the table, pastries.
Okay, it's my dream too. Like, it was, and they looked so good, and we're just sitting down, and we're like, nobody's like jumping in and grabbing stuff because we're trying to wait to kind of figure out what we're doing. But you're sitting there looking at all of these different pastries that are there, and I'm like, oh, these look so good.
And there were cheese sandwiches on the table.
Cheese sandwiches.
And there was different breads. So like was it crumpets?
There were crumpets, the little biscuits, and
slices of bread.
Slice of bread with it were already pre-buttered with a lot of butter on them.
And then there was plum and watermelon jam on the table.
Yeah.
So we didn't even get to sample everything because we couldn't get through everything. It was so much food, and we just like kind of picked and chose some of the, like there was one pastry that
chose a lot.
Yeah, there was one that had dulce de leche in the middle. Of course, we were not going to pass up on that.
No.
There was like a little apple pie pastry.
There was.
My particular favorite was like it was a square with raspberry cream in the middle.
Too.
That was so good.
I don't know.
With the crumble and everything with the raspberry cream was very good.
And the thing about it, like I'm not a huge, I like raspberry. It's just not my favorite because some raspberry desserts and things like that tend to still be very tart. And this, like I almost didn't believe it was raspberry until she told us it was raspberry because the cream and the raspberry made it so smooth and so
very good.
It was, I would say, my favorite as well. Like, it was so good.
And there was a chocolate cake that was good too.
And you guys, we weren't getting like little samples. Like if you went to a bake shop, a panaderia or a bakery, and you ordered one of these things, each of us was getting like a full thing of these.
But we were splitting desserts.
We were.
Because we wanted to try as much as we could.
All of them if we could, but we didn't get through all of them.
No, we didn't get through all of them. We got through quite a bit. And then the ladies were coming around with their little teapots. And pouring the black tea. And I'm sure we had like 3 or 4 cups. It was very... Oh, you think we had that many?
I think we had like 5 cups of tea because it was really good.
It was very good black tea.
I'm a coffee drinker. Deb drinks more tea than I do, but it was really good.
It was very good.
Very tasty black tea.
And we had set out so early in the morning. We'd only had 1 cup of coffee by now.
We needed the tea badly.
And from the very first cup of tea, I think it had a lot of caffeine in it because immediately we felt better. Like, okay, here comes the tea.
And they kept they were making sure our teacups were always full. They kept coming around.
And then let's not forget to mention too, while we're eating all these pastries, there was a choir.
There was, and they were outstanding.
They were very good. And they were singing in both Welsh and Spanish. And so they were just up front, and it was very cool.
Had no idea what we were getting into, what we were going to get to see. And Deb usually, like if we knew we were going on this, Deb would have watched videos. She would have researched everything. We would have kind of known. Kind of the surprise of going into this tea house and getting these amazing baked goods and awesome tea and entertainment. And the choir was outstanding.
Yeah. It was a long drive to get there, but it was kind of worth it.
It was a cool experience. I liked it. I thought it was really neat. And if you'd asked me, like, here's all of our things, and one of the things we can do is go get Welsh tea, I would have kind of been like, I don't really know about going and getting Welsh tea. Loved it.
Lesson learned.
Super cool.
Now, I will say though, once we got done eating, we had another half hour before we had to be back on the bus.
Just to wander.
And so we like to walk, and especially after meals.
After eating all those sweets?
Oh, we had to after all that food. And so we walked, and, one of the first things we found was a cat.
A cat. Deb was like, her eyes laser focused on this little guy. And this little guy laser focused back on Deb. Like he came and jumped up.
He came over. He was laying like in a little driveway we were passing by. And he just came over and jumped up on
Cat Whisperer called to him.
Oh, and he gave us so much love. It was so...
He was a sweet little cat.
That was amazing.
He was very sweet. And we saw, he wasn't the only one we saw. You saw that little... It was a white cat, but the white cat had been rolling in the dirt, so it wasn't...
He wasn't quite so white
anymore.
Yeah, and he was just sleeping in his yard.
Yeah.
So, but that made my day,
Deb
too.
got her cat fixed, that was kind of nice.
I love a friendly cat.
But even walking around, like, down through the middle of Gaiman is the river that comes all the way from the Andes Mountains, and I can't remember, they call it like the Clear River or the Blue River, something like that, because up at the nomadic original people who lived there used to go all the way to the Andes to the source of this river, and it's very clear there. By the time it gets to Gaiman, it's sediment, so it's not like it's dirty or anything. It's actually like when you look at it, it's very clear, but it has a green tinge to it. You'll see in the videos it has a green tinge to it.
It's small too. It's
small.
not a big river.
It's small, but that river basically comes in and feeds the city. All along the way, they dig like irrigation ditches to give fresh water to the farms that are there. But so it is kind of the source of life through all of that desert, and it goes all the way back into Puerto Madryn.
Another thing that we found fascinating too out here is, we drove through a desert to get there, and there's no natural trees. None. So when we were taking pictures around town, every tree that you might see in a picture was planted. And
the tour guide told us this, like there were no trees here. All these trees were brought from the people who were settled here and planted as windbreaks, especially because the wind can get really, really strong. And it did.
And there were some really pretty flower trees too.
The trees were beautiful. I mean, the city
we saw
was
some nice sunflowers too.
Yeah, the city was well laid out. It was nice. It's a small town, probably I would call it, but laid out, kind of nice for walking, main plaza and district. It was for the short period of time we were there. It was a great walk.
And then we were off for our long journey back through the desert to our next stop.
Okay, so we were done with our tea. We gone for our walk. We got a few more steps in after eating all those baked goods, and we hopped back on the bus for another trip, kind of back toward Puerto Madryn. And the goal was to try to get to Punto Lomo. To see if we could see some sea lions.
And Punto Lomo is about a half hour outside of Puerto Madryn. So once we got back into town, then we took a half hour drive kind of along the coast back up. So it was a nice drive. That one was...
Through the desert, though, even to the
to one side was the desert, and the other side
was the ocean.
Yeah. That was kind of crazy.
There's no in between. There's no lush green land. It's
pretty much almost the whole way. Once you got to the edge of town, all the way out, there were just so many campers parked along the ocean. I mean, just tons and tons.
They don't have
forever.
Beaches. It's heavy cliffs. Like it's big drop offs. So
there are beaches in Puerto Madryn.
But not in the area we were at.
A couple along the way.
So these caravans were like lined up kind of along these cliffs, and they had these beautiful views. Like if you're going to caravan and hang out for a little while, beautiful, gorgeous views of the ocean.
Yep. So when we did arrive at Punto Lomo, immediately when you get off the bus, to the right, there was a lookout point, and then there was a little walk path, that you could do a path. And so we went straight for the path first because we figured everyone would go to the
Everybody else went to the lookout point. So we're like, let's go do the path first and see how it is.
So we walked along the path, which is, it was like walking along the desert. We saw a couple lizards. I think I got some pictures of some lizards. And then there was a sign that said, there were different signs saying what animals.
Right.
Like there was a sign
plants,
that said
what animals.
There was one that said there were gray fox.
Yep.
We didn't see any.
Didn't see any.
There was another sign that said there were Jeffrey cats.
So and I've seen videos of Jeffrey's cats, which are really cute. They are these little. They don't look like they're fierce predators, but I think they're the smallest natural wild cat out there.
My eyes were constantly watching,
trying to find.
And not until later did he tell me, "Well, they're nocturnal." Well,
right?
Okay. I
didn't realize she was hunting for them.
I was watching for them constantly. So not Jeffrey's cats.
Yeah.
But we did walk along the path, and we got some pictures, kind of more from far away, of the sea lions on the beach and the beautiful coastline.
Yep.
Because it was very nice.
That area over there. For the coastline, the vista was awesome.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then the cliffs are full of blackbirds, the rock shags.
Yeah. And they live in holes or live in little kind of caves in the
So we got some good footage of that too, of the birds.
And we could see from that angle, only one or two sea lions, one that had just come in from the ocean and one that was just laying on the beach chilling. And so that, the angle from up there wasn't great for sea lions.
It wasn't great. So then we walked back down the path, which was fortunate because then people we were passing the other people.
Yeah.
So then we got over to the lookout point, which so then you could really see down on the beach. There were so many sea lions down there. I
understand why that's the lookout point, because then you get this view into just this kind of carve out, and there had to be 25 sea lions all laying, and they're like laying on top of each other.
So I don't know if it was nap time. Maybe they were all just kind of just snuggled up and sleeping, except for one little guy was coming out of the.
Yeah.
Actually, I say one little guy, but that actually would have been a female because she would have gone out for food to bring back to the babies.
To the pups, right? Yeah. But I mean, from that vista, we got to see sea lions, and we got to kind of see them. Some of them moving around, some of them doing silly stuff. And, it was pretty cool.
And then from there, it was a half-hour ride back to the ship. So it was not what we set out to do that day, but we hustled so fast and sort of rescued the day and found something different.
You just, again, you bob and weave with all of this. You just try to figure out what you can do.
Yeah.
And by doing that, I mean, Deb's got like mad skills to be able to go do what's the next thing? What do we have to do? I got to experience a Welsh tea, which I probably wouldn't have chosen.
Probably would not have chosen that. That's right.
Definitely worth the trip. So that was kind of it. I mean, all in all, that whole trip probably took 3 hours, 4 hours. It was a decent, like, long bus ride. So we got to see something new and interesting and do some new things. So if you have questions about Puerto Madryn or about any of the little side trips that we did, adventures, just let us know in a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, be sure to like and subscribe.
And thank you for joining us.
We'll see you in the next video.